Welcome to Noodle Doodle. I am your host, Lazaro Gomez, and we're gonna do this thing like we always do. If you're new to Noodle Doodle, this is BOT10ART's podcast that I lovingly call Noodle Doodle because um, I just sit here, pick a topic to talk about, and draw in my 300 drawing prompt book. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see that. If not, you can visit bot10art.blogspot.com and listen to this episode and all the previous episodes of Noodle Doodle. So we're going to go ahead and get into it. And I just want to say welcome. If this is your cup of tea, then subscribe or give it a like or share or tell your friends, whatever you want to do. It's cool with me. But for me, Noodle Doodle is the time where I just kind of hang out, de-stress a little bit, and just sketch in this little book of mine. But I was thinking about what I wanted to kind of cover in this week's Noodle Doodle, and this has definitely been a week of just being bombarded with all kinds of things, all kinds of, just crazy news, and home life is good. Work is a little hectic. Um, hectic in the sense that it's busy, right? So there's a lot of stuff going on. In the art world, I have a lot of commissions, which is always a great thing. It keeps me busy, and I enjoy it very much. I did the Friday night live stream, which, if you're not familiar with that, it is a weekly show that I do, very similar to this one. The only difference is that we have an artist, we have an audience participation. But for Noodle Doodle, it's a lot laid back. So, yeah, there was a lot of things running through my mind, and I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to talk about. We've covered everything from branding to artwork and stuff like that. But one thing did kind of stand out in my mind, and I know it's a little bit, it's a little bit of a dark topic. But I have been watching a lot of like apocalyptic, I guess, movies, zombie outbreaks, and all kinds of like weird stuff on Netflix. and they're just watching all of that stuff. A theme did come up, and I thought it would be pretty cool to talk about that particular thing that I was thinking about on Noodle Doodle. So here we are, and we're talking about it. Let's see. So today I opened up the book, and I just randomly open it to whatever page I just flip through, boom. Oh, this looks pretty cool. So we came up with Captain's Hat, which is which is that little prompt right there if you're watching on YouTube, and something nautical. So I've been watching some gameplay also on Sea of Thieves, and I'm kind of interested in the game, and I may be playing it once I finish all of the stuff I'm currently playing now. But I thought it'd be kind of cool to do something, related to that as we talk about the particular subject. I went ahead and kind of did a quick pre-sketch, but I'm gonna draw on top of it, and just darken up these colors and make it work. So just fatten up the lines so that you could see it on the video. But anyway, interesting, what and I know what you're thinking. You're like, how does Sea of Thieves tie into all of this? But it kind of does, and I'll explain why. So what I've noticed is that a lot of these films and TV shows and stuff like that, Walking Dead, Just the most recent one I saw was Train to Busan, but um, Io is another one. How It Ends, um, you know, so on and so forth. Like there's tons of these movies that you can watch, and they kind of, yeah, they have different storylines. Um, the most recent and popular one being Bird Box, and all of these stories, they're designed, I guess, or they're I shouldn't say designed, they're marketed as horror, or something like crazy happening, but there's a lot of things underneath all of that. And in order to understand all of those films, because I mean, yeah, you know the average viewer will be like, that one was good, this one was not. Oh my god, can you imagine if this happened, and that happened, and this happened? And there's so many of these films that now they start losing their value, right? They like, the first time you saw The Walking Dead, you're like, oh my god, this actually happened, I would freak out. But then you've seen so much Walking Dead that driving to work, you just run them over. Not even think about that it was a human life at one point in time, etc., etc. Right? So we're so used to it. We're already um, we're already used to the idea of, like, if a zombie outbreak happens, we're gonna grab the nearest machete or the nearest katana blade. Even though a lot of the katanas out there are replicas and they're not gonna serve the purpose, but I digress. But you get the idea. All of a sudden you start thinking, yeah, I'm a warrior, I can't wait till this happens because I'm gonna go around and slay people all day long, and so on and so forth. So the movies themselves, they start losing the horror aspect of it. And you're starting to see that a lot in art, to where people are kind of making horror artwork that's very cute, very kawaii, and it's kind of losing, the effect. So a lot of, the perfect example of that is, you've all seen it, that one meme that depicts Jason Voorhees, you know, and it's like, oh, it's not Friday the 13th, you know. And yeah, it's cute, it's funny, whatever, but they kind of dumb down this, this killer, this person that's just out for blood, and just, you know, it's gonna have his day in in this camp, and just kill innocent people or innocent teenagers. And again, oop, I hit the microphone. And then again, you're starting to see a lot of this happening. So for me, um, you have to go to the original, and it always has been and always will be my favorite film, and it's Night of the Living Dead, 1968, George Romero, Night of the Living Dead. And here's why: it's not only like the first time that ghouls were introduced, later on zombies, The Walking Dead, so on and so forth, but the actual film itself was pioneering for its era. It was pioneering, for that genre. It created that genre. But more importantly, there was a lot of things within the film that were kind of speaking to me and a lot of other people who love this particular film. And it is, it's a lot of things like the social interaction, the human behavior, um, of course, you know, um, interracial relationships, right? You have the first time that a black man is in a film like this and is a hero, and then in a predominantly like white culture, I guess. And George Romero talks about that, and he talks about a lot of other things, um, class. So you have a character who is rich, who's there with his daughter and his wife, and they have money, and oh, you're dumb, you're stupid, get in this cellar, and there's that conflict of class. So you have a conflict of race, you have a conflict of class. Oh, what do these dumb hillbillies know? You know, and all of that is crammed into this horror film where these ghouls are coming back from the dead, and they're taking over. So then that within itself is George Romero saying, the collapse of society. And then that leads to my point, to what I take from all of these films, is that a lot of bad things happen when we don't work together. So that the key takeaway is, whenever you're dealing with something that's like that, it could be anything. It could be civil unrest, it could be a zombie outbreak, it could be some crazy, CDC infection that kind of took over the world, and you know, um, how I like to say, just start the film, insert whatever whatever chaos you want here. But you tend, in all the writing, you tend to see the same things pop up, all right, the same themes, I guess, and usually it's a lot of the stuff um, that George Romero covered in Night of the Living Dead. You have, and it's so interesting because that film came out so long ago. But like I said, I just finished watching Train to Busan, and lo and behold, there it is, the same things. It's like the argument amongst classes, the arguments about levels of intelligence or whatever the case may be. But a modern film. It is a Japanese zombie movie that was recommended by my friend Jared. Um, and all of those things were present, But, of course, those clashes lead to bad things. One dude is like, "You're not the boss, get out of my way. I need to survive, blah, 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 blah." Pushing pregnant women to the side, and trying to get away from the infected. And then of course, this one particular guy, he's on the train, and he's all about saving himself, and he starts doing things. That are not conducive to anything, right? They're not helping anybody out. It creates mob mentality. He's lying to everybody. He's doing all of these different things that are totally screwing these people over. And that is a common theme that we see a lot, and could be amplified or made worse when something catastrophic like this happens. So the perfect example of that would be us living, or me living here in Florida. You grow up knowing about hurricanes and this and that, whatever, and it never fails, man. It never fails. The minute the news start talking about, oh, there's a hurricane coming, here's what happens, right? There's things that you could count on for sure that are gonna happen. Number one, everybody's gonna rush to the store, ravage the shelves, and they take tons and tons of gallons of water, cracks me up. It cracks me up because, and here's the thing, and of course, I'm in no way making fun of these people. They may not be aware, they may not know, but it's just funny to watch. So for me, um, I have containers, empty plastic containers here in the house just for hurricanes. And, yeah, I keep up on the weather and I look at things and stuff like that. And I'm like, hey, hurricane's coming. Let me fill these up, and I fill them up. And then, of course, you could add bleach to kind of purify the water and keep the water safe to drink, right? Then, of course, if I need more water, I fill up my bathtub. That's about 35 to 40 gallons of water. And I think I'm good to go because usually it's about a week and a half afterwards if it's a really bad hurricane and destroys everything, to kind of get power and get everything running and all that stuff. But anyways, people go to the store and they buy gallons and gallons, like, of the the small 12-ounce bottles of water. They buy cases of it. Like, you see people leaving the store with like tons and tons of of cases of water in their shopping carts. Water, bread, peanut butter, and that's it. Um, I like the outdoors. I enjoy camping with my family. So I have camping equipment, and within that camping equipment is a Coleman stove. I have small gas powered stove. I have gas powered lanterns. I have all of that stuff that's used for camping, but can also be used in case of a hurricane. So just real simple planning. You don't need to waste a lot of money, but it tends to happen all the time. So that got me thinking. It's like, well, why are people doing this? Why are they just taking all the water, taking all the bread, and they're wiping out stores before the hurricane? You should leave some resources in the store because the store is going to be a lot stronger than most people's, I guess, structures or homes or whatnot. A lot of these places, they have backup generators so they can keep stuff fresh, right? But why do people do it? Why do they do it? And then I started thinking about how Florida is, and also how my particular area is where I live, Orlando. And Central Florida has always been viewed or seen as a transient hub, right? So you have native Floridians, people who are born and raised here. They kind of know the law, the lay of the land. And then you have people that come in and out. So they come from different countries, they come from different states, and they're visiting the theme parks and this and that, whatever. And they kind of don't, they don't know. They don't know what's going on. So that's part of the problem. And okay, you're vacationing here, you're stuck here because of a hurricane that's about to ravage the state. What do I do? Everybody is saying to grab water. The news are saying to grab water to get non-perishable items and XYZ. So people start freaking out. And of course, you could always tell the people who came from somewhere else, and this is my first hurricane, I don't know what to do, blah, 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 blah. So, again, I'm not making fun of these people. I'm just saying that's exactly what's happening. You don't know, right? You don't know what's going on. And yeah, okay, well, a zombie outbreak happens. I'm not gonna know I'm not gonna know what to do, but I'm gonna trust my instincts. And I'm also gonna do one more thing, which is what the common thing that you see in all these films and it's something that I always keep in the back of my mind. The key to survival is working together, right? Working together. So you have to form a community real fast, and you need to put egos aside, and you need to, you know, look at the strengths, look at the weaknesses, work with the strengths, and find a way to eliminate the weaknesses. Done. That's what we're going to do. Are there going to be arguments? Are there going to be conflicts? Of course. We have arguments and conflicts all the time. We have them at work. We have them at home. You know, one person wants to eat at Denny's. The other person wants to eat at Wawa, or whatever the case may be. That's a conflict. But in a time like that, that could be a life and death situation. You know, do we cross the bridge, or do we, go east this way? Do we go into this building looking for supplies, or do we, try to start this car? That sort of stuff, And then also what I've noticed is you have the scientific method, right? You have the scientific method in play. So in Busan, whenever the train would go into a tunnel, all the zombies that were wild and crazy, and it was like very 28 days later, they would freak out, and they would stop, and they're still kind of and doing their thing, but now they're not attacking the living, they're not attacking the non-infected, they're just kind of blind almost. And one of the dudes sees that, and with a bat, with a bat, he kind of like taps the side of the train, tap tap tap, like that, and they all immediately rushed to where the sound was, but they weren't attacking them. So they established that it's a visual thing, and they started covering stuff up. And I don't want to give away too much in case you want to watch the film, but right, deduction, experimentation, hypothesis, it's the scientific method. It's like that's what's going to happen. So that's what you have to put in play. And the more people understand that, and the more people are a community, then you can get things done. You're gonna survive, because there's that old saying that there's that old saying that a lot of hands make for light work. So you can get a lot done really, really fast if you have a lot of people. And yeah, in the movies they depict it as the dumb person got bit and they're hiding it, and they go into the community and, oh, you're infected. No, 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 it's just, a little scratch on my face, and that's going to happen. So the community is always going to be under threat. And, those are all the things that you need to kind of think about. In society, it's a lot that way. There's no difference. Due to hyper consumerism, due to just people going absolutely nuts buying everything because they think it's gonna run out, and get out of my way. And I kind of talked about that last week, but you see that, right? You see the ugly side of people right away, and you're starting to you're starting to see that, especially a lot here in the United States, where for some reason the actual country, itself, and people, I hate to like say that things are messed up, but the whole polarization, like, that's just ridiculous. There is, in my mind, and granted, I get it, politics are personal. I totally understand that. Totally understand that. But we don't have to be completely polarizing to everything. I have friends that love things that I don't. I have friends that have political views that I don't, but they're my friends. I love them. I care about them, and I'm always going to respect them and hear them out, right? Because for me, we're always learning. We're always learning something. And I like to consider myself a person that is willing to listen to both sides, right? Especially now in politics and stuff. Um, you have all the stuff that's happening here in the U.S. with the wall and the government shutdown and all of this stuff. And I get it. I get it. But it also does suck for a lot of people affected by that. And you kind of have to have a certain level of apathy to really understand what all is happening and going on. But Venezuela, like Venezuela, all of the stuff that's happening there, and just so on and so forth. So there's always conflict, there's always problems, and we're smart enough to figure it all out. We're smart enough to move forward and keep going, because that's what history has proven to us. That's what history has shown us, that in different parts or different times there has been conflict, and it gets worked out. So without going too crazy into into all of that, but again, the point that I was trying to make is that from an early age, that's what I've seen. Cooperation. We have to work together. We have to work together. Yes, we can have all kinds of varying opinions. We can do all kinds of stuff like that. We could agree to disagree. We could disagree. We can do all of that stuff. But it all boils down to, when there's a common threat or a common enemy, things change, right? So the enemy of or the what is it? Yeah, the friend of my enemy is my enemy. I might have quoted that wrong, but you know what I mean. Basically, if two people that don't get along have a common threat, they start working together, which is really, really interesting to think about. Why something like that would happen, right? So it's interesting, and that's what I get from all these movies. The survivors tend to put aside their differences and work together, and then of course you tend to see uh, the unlikely people getting along and working together, and you see a lot of that stuff, and that seems to be the driving force, right? That's where you could build a drama. So it's funny when I hear people like, "Oh, The Walking Dead sucks." That it's not even about the zombies anymore. Well, that's the whole thing. If you read the graphic novel, or you read the comics, that's what Robert Kirkman was kind of driving home. The zombies were always a background thing. It was the relationships between all of the people, all the characters, and how they are each individually dealing with the outbreak and surviving the outbreak, and all of the crazy things that could happen. Like you have people that, like Rick, that want to hold morality, that want to you know that are basically crushed by doing the same thing, yet protecting protecting people in his camp. So he has to go against his own morality. Um, and then you have people like the governor and other characters that sadly are the chaotic characters, and they just want to see the world burn. They want to rule it. They want to hold dominion over people, and just so on and so forth. And those are all the things that you see in these shows and movies and all kinds of stuff. It's like where society falls apart. And For me, I was playing The Division, Tom Clancy's The Division, and it's a lot of that. You know, their slogan, well, their mascot is a phoenix. You know, the mascot for The Division is a phoenix, and their slogan is "When society falls, we rise," and that's exactly it. You know, there's always something that happens that way. You know, that causes people to freak out, to abandon rationale, to whatever the case may be. It could be fear, it could be a million other things. And you know, to say that you're above it all is really awkward, because we're all human and we could all freak out. We're all afraid of something. um, but that's okay. It's okay to be afraid. It's okay to, you know, to know that, because to me, knowledge is everything, right? Logic. You gotta deal with logic. And once you understand something, you no longer fear it. You know, you no longer fear it. And I think that when people are like, you know, zombies, whatever, I'll just smash them over the head and this and that, whatever. That's it. That's the reason why people say that, is because they know in this, you know, in this hypothetical situation, they know that if they destroy the head, the zombie's dead. And there's a million other ways to dispatch a zombie, and you know, a million other ways to protect yourself against zombies and this and that, whatever. So they're no longer afraid of that. You know, the threat is now neutralized. And I think that's what we have to I think that's what we have to do in modern times. Is, you know, we have to assess the situation. We have to think about all of those things that are in play, and more importantly, we have to work together. We can't be a pirate taking everything in the Sea of Thieves. So that's it. That is my noodle doodle for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll probably post this on Instagram. It's a pretty cool drawing. I don't know. I like it. I hope you enjoyed this episode and all the other episodes. Like I mentioned before, if you want to listen to more, go to bot10art.blogspot.com, or you can watch them right here on YouTube and you can see what I'm drawing. That's another way to experience it. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to enjoy my Sunday. I'll probably play some video games, tell you honestly. Video games, do laundry. I just kind of keep taking it easy. It is raining outside. It's cold. So I'll just stay snuggled up and bundled up here. All right. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the weekend. You have a wonderful week moving forward. And of course, as always, we will see you here next week for yet another episode of Noodle Doodle. If you like this sort of stuff, destroy the like button for me. That would be awesome. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.